to premiere number 27 of the Internal Map of Reality, an Introduction to Meditation. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these videos. They are both an introduction to these topics and also a resource. So tonight we'll be entering into a new field of area. We'll be talking about filters, and we'll be looking at the way that we filter our reality on a moment-to-moment basis will in fact determine our experience. How and what you do and how you do it is determined by how you're filtering what you are experiencing. And we will go into that in great detail. And also we're going to do a topic that I'm really excited about, and we'll be doing more presentations on it, is what can you do for your own health preservation? As we continue our journey through our reality, we will experience challenges to our health. So the question is not who do you go to, it's not what kinds of beliefs you have or whatever, but it's the specific things that you can do and the specific things that your body needs to be able to maintain optimum health. And we'll be looking at that particularly as it pertains to the three bodies: our physical body, our emotional body, and our spirit body. So as usual, to kick things off, what we will do is our 1-minute meditation. And I had promised to do some guided meditation. So what I've done in the comment section, I've included the link for one of my most favorite guided meditations. And I think it's one of the ones that I started doing the first is the color meditation. So look in the comments, and if you want, you can do the color meditation for yourself. Okay, so now let's do the 1-minute silent meditation. And this 1-minute meditation is to practice the what we call detachment. So you stay focused, you stay present, but you allow whatever will float into your reality to come in, and your attention will vary, will move to it. And then in a very relaxed and gentle way, you disconnect from whatever has drawn your attention and go back to your focal point. Now, if your eyes are open, the focal point could be a spot on the wall. It could be a flower. It could be, any inanimate object that you have sitting in front of you. That is just a place for you to put your attention. If your eyes are closed, what you can do is observe something I call the fuzzy dot. With your eyes closed, you will notice a little light. And this is caused by the optic nerve. It's like if you close your eyes suddenly, you'll see the light, the brightest spot will be lit in the darkness. So anyway, so that's a nice thing. If you don't see a little glowing fuzzy dot when you close your eyes, then your job is to look for the dot. So you're looking into the darkness for this fuzzy dot, or you are observing it. And at some point, if you get distracted and you start thinking about something, remember the 6 modes of thought. You could be feeling something physically. You could be smelling something. You could be tasting something. You could be visualizing that you're seeing something or looking at something. Or you could be hearing something, either sounds or words. At any time when you begin to focus on any of these 6 modes, just become aware of it, i.e. wake up to the fact that you are distracted, and then go back to what you are considering your focal point. Okay, so let's go with that, and we'll do our 1-minute meditation now. We're going to be looking at how our subconscious uses filters to keep us on track towards our goals in life. Now, you could imagine that if we had to process all the information coming towards us, we'd probably never get anything done. If you could hear all the sounds that were available to hear and see all the sights that were available to see and feel all the textures around you all at once, it would be overwhelming. So these filters automatically limit down what you are perceiving in real time to the things that your subconscious believes is key to your survival, key to your success. So this rolls back to our sessions about beliefs and desires, that if you set up your desires and your beliefs correctly, then your subconscious will be automatically presenting towards you on a moment-to-moment basis the things that are relevant for you to achieve those. So let's go over to the PowerPoint, and looking at a quote here, which I think really spells it out clearly. We're not in a world of information overload. We're in a world of filter failure. Let me repeat that again. We're not in a world of information overload. We're in a world of filter failure. I think this is so true, that if you are able to filter and concentrate and focus, that's why we do the detachment meditation, is to learn to focus through this myriad display array of information coming at you. You're going to be able to focus on the key things that are relevant to you, and the rest will be not disregarded, but put to a side. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've looked at why and how we have a map. We looked at modes of thinking, and we did quite a bit of work on beliefs. And hopefully by now you're comfortable with how you structure your beliefs, and we'll be going into that later on as we build our life goals. But for now, I think you have enough information to know that beliefs are the tools you are using to achieve your desires. Now, your filters are another kind of tool, and we'll be going into those now. Coming up in the near future, we'll be looking at a very special filter called the timeline, and we'll be going into that in great detail because it's such a major part of our reality. Now, in some countries, timelines are not that important. Everything is now. But in our reality, in our world, time, past, present, future is very important. Then we'll be moving back into values again, but this time looking at how to structure our values or our desires in a organized and hierarchy. Then we'll be looking at meta programs, which are an example of filters, but a little bit more elaborate ones that people use in their life scripts. And then finally, we'll be moving into the real purpose of this whole exercise is really to understand how we generate strategies for motivation. Now, if you want to do something in your reality, you got to be motivated. So understanding how to create these strategies involves everything that we've been learning up until that session 8. And finally, we'll start organizing life goals. This is one that had particular meaning for me in being able to periodically go and look at my life goals and sort them through and make sure that I am really asking my genie for what I want. And then we'll look at some fun things, modeling 1 and 2, about how to take advantage of other people's internal maps of reality. Okay, so a quick zip through the resources. We have these Wednesday sessions, and right now we're doing them as previews, and we might be able to go back to doing them as live streams, hopefully very soon, if and when Rose is able to return. And then I've added in the Sunday afternoons previews where we can look ahead, see what's coming down the road, answer questions about any of the exercises we've been doing. And, so we've been running those as premieres. And then in the chat, I can answer your questions in the chat. And of course, we have our meditation and presentation recordings, which if you don't have access to them, give me an email or a message, and I'll be able to spruce that up. And of course, our 3 groups of patrons who I really, really appreciate. And hopefully this will grow. And so you are the core group now, the small group of people who are learning about the internal map. And hopefully you'll be like the core group top group here who really want to learn this. So you can be here just to see it and understand it. That's one level. But then you could be at the mid-level, the group that wants to be able to use it in their life. And finally, you might be at that core group level that feel it's such an important thing that you want to be able to share it. So I want to again say thank you for my patrons. So here we go. Contact information, I'll just leave this up for a second. You know how to reach Rose and me. And if you do decide to share some of your information, I really would be interested in knowing about it. So filters. So what we'll be doing now in this session 4 is looking at filters. What are they? How do they work? And why do we have them? Now, there are a lot of different filters, and hopefully you will begin to identify filters that I don't talk about, but there are many. But here are some key ones. We're going to talk about the timeline filter. We talk about the associated filter, and we've already mentioned that a couple times. We'll look at the frequency filter and the solution filter. Okay, and then we'll be looking at power filters. You can make any of these filters your power filter. And this is, again, an extension of your power frames and your power beliefs. So you can convert a belief into a power belief. You can convert a filter into a power filter. You can use that filter. You can find one that's a strength for you, and then you can activate it and make it something that you can use whenever you need to draw on it. And then we'll just talk about how to apply filters at the end here. So some of the concepts, I want you to start thinking about something called meta programs. And meta programs, just like in metadata in a computer file, is not the actual data. It's a description of the data. So we have filters, and filters are actually meta programs. They don't contain any information about what you're experiencing, but they tell you how to process it. So the meta programs are the instructions on how to process, not the data itself. And then we'll look at polarization. When you're using a filter, you're polarizing your reality. You're separated, just like a polarized lens. When you hold it up, will separate light frequencies at certain bandwidths. You can do this automatically. And the thing I think I want to stress over and over again, these filters happen before you are consciously aware of the content. So they're a pre-processing technique. And the third concept, I want you to begin to thinking about the fact that these filters are actually continuums. They're not an off and on. They are a continuum. You can dial up or down across a range. So what are filters? Well, filters are like sunglasses, or in this case, pink glasses that you put on, you see a rosy world. The moment you put the glasses on, everything looks different. Filters will delete, magically, anything that's not relevant to you. And if anything gets through your filter and it's not matching what you need to see, it will distort it and change it. And finally, filters will generalize so that you can look at a range of information and reduce it down to a few generalized statements. Now, these techniques are important. However, when they are operating without your awareness that they're working, or if they're working in an unresourceful way and you are deleting, distorting, and generalizing in an unresourceful way, then that can come back to bite you. So we want to be able to become aware of these filters and identify, are we deleting, distorting, and generalizing inappropriately or in a way that's not advantageous or resourceful. So when we have the delete action going on, what the delete function will do is that if you have content you don't want to see or hear or touch or smell, you can delete it. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a room and there wasn't a very annoying sound, or you're trying to get to sleep and there's a sound that is really annoying. Say it's the sound of cars in the street, or someone talking in the next room. You have the power to delete that input. And you might find that if you just relax, all of a sudden you don't hear those cars outside. You don't hear that person talking next to you. It allows you to focus on what you desire. And it's a form of protection too. For those of us who have been traumatized by something in the past, then seeing or experiencing that material, that input again, will only traumatize you again. So you have the power to just delete the content. You don't even see it. Now, this can be advantageous, but it can be a problem, particularly if you really do need to see that material. So when things are distorted, and this I find is a really great one, and we have some examples here that we can talk about, such as when people are on a diet. Well, they can be on a diet, but then they can actually convince themselves that they are following the diet, even though they are eating twice as much of a certain food than they should have. So this ability to distort what you're seeing will keep you in that comfort zone. You will feel okay. You will believe that you're following your diet, but in reality, you're not. And it's a form of support. It allows you to validate your reality. And you may be having a conversation with someone, and you can point out a scenario that you've been trying to convince them of, something you've been trying to show them that is something different from what they believe. And they just will not see it each time you point it out. So the example here is the picture being displayed. Some people will see a vase, and some people will see two faces. Then there are those of us who can see both the faces and the vase simultaneously. And this is where I would like you to be able to move in your ability to understand your filters, how to process the filter so you can see one way or another both actions of your filter and then decide which way you want to go. So you can look at that picture and you can decide to see a vase, or you can decide to see two faces. The one I think that causes the most problems in our society is the generalizing of input. So when you see something, you will automatically say, oh, that's in this case, an old lady, or that is a young girl. Which do you see? An old lady or a young girl? And again, this is information that's being generalized and processed before you get a chance to even consciously work with the material. It's based on your preferences. It's also based on your attraction. Now, as I mentioned, one of the ways this particular filter or this action of filters is a problem in our society is that when we begin to generalize others in our world, we don't even take the time to look and see if it's the opposite. If someone is actually being kind, if we think this particular type of person is a mean, nasty person, we won't take the time to even dig deeper. Okay, so let's continue on. Why do we have filters? Well, as some of you may have heard, there's something called the law of attraction, that whatever you think, you become. What you are taking internally and feel about your reality, you begin to attract. And what you imagine, you begin to create. These are very powerful things. And if you have values or desires that are consistent with what you really want in your life, you've actually sat down and looked at them and sorted them through, which we will be doing very soon, then your beliefs should be consistent with that. And you can take and discard unresourceful beliefs, and then power frame, activate more resourceful beliefs. When you start doing that, you will automatically begin to apply these filters subconsciously. Okay? So they become a very powerful. So if you know people that are very successful, they do not have to think things through a lot. They act because these filters are working automatically. So this is an exercise that I'd like you to do, is to take some time and think about ways that you may be deleting input, that you may be distorting input, or you may be generalizing. And just take a look at that within yourself and make some notes. Do some observations. You can also observe other people that you know. Are they in some way deleting information, distorting information, generalizing? And then what I'd like you to do is to begin to try to understand if this is a mechanism, if this is the way they tend to treat all information of a certain class. So you can identify filters because they will work the same way on all classes of information like that. I'll give you an example. Say someone is nervous about presenting to people in public. And they will begin to filter out any opportunities to present, but they'll do it in the same way. So whenever there is a situation where they'll have to stand up and present to a group, either a small group or a large group, they'll use the same technique, the same filters to avoid that. Today we're going to look at something that I call do-it-yourself wellness. And this is intended for those who are basically, in good shape. If you are in any kind of crisis, of course, you seek the appropriate wellness consultant. But the key here, and this is an Eastern approach, is to stay healthy. Once you get yourself centered, once you get yourself working well, how do you keep yourself in wellness and health? This isn't necessarily about repairing any damage. That you will go to a professional consultant for that. This is more about how you deal with your day-to-day health and maintaining it yourself. I'm going to hit on some topics. I'm going to talk about the 3-body approach. And this is a fairly recognized approach that we look at a human being as being made up of 3 components: a physical body, an energetic body, and a spirit body that integrate as one. And then we'll end by looking at how meditation is a key part in maintaining this synchronicity between all 3 of these bodies. I'll mention it right at this point that, there are theories going on where there's other bodies, but for this particular approach, I think 3 bodies is enough of a division, although it's perfectly all right if you want to have 4 or 5 or more. Okay, the 3-body approach comes mainly out of the East, in which the bodies are perceived, and I've heard this one, and it isn't necessarily the way it has to be, that the spirit body motivates the energy, and the energy body feeds the physical body. That life came from spirit, generated the energy to build the physical body. Some people think these three bodies are related to frequencies, that the faster you vibrate, the more you approach the spirit body, and the slower you vibrate, the more dense you become, the more you approach the physical body. However you want to approach it and define it for yourself, it's pretty clear that we have a physical body. And the primary components of the physical body is controlled by our master glands, our endocrine system. And the primary glands are shown here on the slide, that we have this huge gland in our head called a brain, and it basically synchronizes and coordinates all of our physical activities. And just under the brain are some very important glands, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus. And these key glands, I left out the pineal gland, yes. These key glands in our skull are the ones that maintain the body's homeostasis, that keeps us centered and warms us up when we are cold, cools us down when we are cold, speeds up our heart when we need more circulation, slows it down. So these are the real synchron controller ones. And then you come to the thyroid, which is another master gland. The thyroid looks after many, many things, but the primary thing is growth and metabolism. And the thymus is related to the heart. And then you come to a series of really key glands, the adrenal glands, the liver, and the kidneys. And these glands really are our energy glands, and they provide and process all the food and water we drink and turn it into usable energy and control that. And then finally, in the bottom, we have our sexual glands. Or for women, you have the ovaries, and for the men, you have the testes. Life is created from this. Now, I sometimes think of our physical body as being the most elaborate and sophisticated thing that you can possibly imagine. The body is a self-regulating, self-healing, self-reproducing, self-maintaining and coordinating, and self-aware system. So the body is aware of itself. If you get a cut, you don't have to do anything other than maybe just clean it, and it will form a scab on its own and heal. The body has the capability of replacing every cell in our body, and there are trillions of cells. Now, there's different rates of repair, but I believe it's that within a few months we replace every cell in our body, and this cell replacement is all done automatically. So the physical body, all it needs really is the proper environment. And some people call that the terrain theory, where if you provide the proper terrain, the proper territory, the proper scenario, the body will self-repair and maintain. The other body that we have is our energy body. And this again comes from mainly the East. And these centers you see on here are energy centers. The Bahu and the Yin Tang are all centers. Now, this is out of a methodology called acupuncture, but there are other systems that look at the energy of the body. Now, this cannot be denied, and one of the things that is commonly known is that when you first go into emergency for any reason, the first thing they do is they measure your energy levels, And if you are seriously ill, they may put some sensors on your skin that will monitor the electricity flow in your body. And this energy in the body is similar to electricity, appears to be electricity, but here's the thing. This energy is conscious and interacts with the physical body instantaneously. And the third body, of course, is our spirit body. And it's not something that you can see. You can see and touch and feel the physical body. You can measure the energy body in terms of its electrical power. But the spirit body is more elusive. But you sure can notice when it's not there. When someone is full of the spirit, you can see it and you can feel it. The spirit body in some cultures is considered the most important body. That if you lose your spirit, then all your energy leaves and you die. Now, the thing I want to point out here is that all three bodies are sort of interactive and they support each other. They're a holistic system. So if you damage by any way the physical body, you will damage the energy and spirit body. If you damage the spirit body, you in some way will weaken or damage the physical and the energetic body. They're all integrated. But similarly, you can strengthen the physical body, and that will strengthen your energy and strengthen your spirit. So you can do things on your spirit body. And one thing you can do to strengthen your spirit and energy and physical bodies is a meditation-based practice. Now, this is different than a religion. A religion has a different goal, but it is related. But this is a non-religious. This is just centering the three bodies. And at some point in the future, we will look at something I've been working on called a three-body meditation. But basically, when you practice your meditation, you are allowing things to remain and come back to their natural state. If you ever heard of the phrase, meditation is practicing doing nothing, the art of doing nothing. So when you sit and meditate, you're not really supposed to be doing anything in particular. This gives your physical body, your energetic body, and your spirit body full reign, and they will automatically come back to center. Your three bodies will automatically recenter and rejuvenate if you allow them. So by quieting the mind, but you, your ego, yourself, who you think you are, if you quiet that, if you stay still, all three bodies will come and center and begin to heal. There's nothing you have to do. In fact, you have to stop doing. So, practice your meditation by sitting quietly and practicing your detachment exercise. And stay neutral, stay in the neutral state. Okay, well, that is pretty much it for this little bonus talk. It's really a positive mental attitude talk, and it's really to encourage you to practice your meditation many times daily. Now, sometimes when I have nothing else to do, I allow myself to go into a meditative state whenever I can. Well, that's it for today, and we'll see you in the next presentation.